Hi there everybody, this is David. There's a fan fest going on right now over in Berlin, and Square Enix is talking not only about Final Fantasy XVII, but they're also talking about remakes of Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, and what might be going on with those remakes. And I want to tell you all about it, and that's totally worth the sub as you come and you join the party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your brand new hype. It helps me out a ton. So, we all know that Square is doing the Final Fantasy VII remakes right now, and that they're splitting the Final Fantasy VII remake up into 3 parts, and that the 3rd part will be out next year. We also know that whenever they first announced that, not everybody was really on board with it. It wasn't the most popular decision, but they went ahead with it. And I don't think that they're happy with their decision either. They've kind of gone out and they've said that it's not really meeting sales expectations, but they're going to be doing it anyway, all this kind of stuff. So then they're talking about what are we going to do if we remake other games in the series? Are we going to remake Final Fantasy VI, VIII, IX, whatever, in the same way as we did 7? Are we going to split those up into 2 parts, a World of Ruin part, a World of Balance part? Are we going to split 9 up into 4 discs? What are we going to be doing with those? Or are we going to do like more conservative remake, maybe something more akin to like a Dragon Quest HD 2D, or do it like in an Octopath style? What are we going to be doing for these remakes? So, Yoshi-P had a lot to say about this. He was asked, hey, if you remake 6, are you going to do it in that style, in the 7 style? He says, of course, I understand the feelings of the players, but you have to think about it. Look at Final Fantasy VI. It's such an incredibly huge game. The scale is just immense. And the same applies for other titles like Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX. So of course, now because you're working on the Final Fantasy VII series, I do get that people would be asking for remakes of the other titles. But if we did remake those other titles, we would probably have to release them in 4 installments or even 5 installments. So he's basically saying here, we're not going to do that. Like, there is no way. He's basically saying, yeah, you guys might want this done in this 7 style, but I mean, it's taken 10 years, and it's taken 3 games just for 7. So what's going to happen if we do this for 6, or if we do it for 9, if we do it for 8? It's going to take even longer. He came out in 2024, and he said a Final Fantasy VI remake would take 20 years to do. So he's saying, like, this ain't gonna happen, y'all. This is not going to happen. And I have seen a lot of people taking this quote out of context and saying it in such a way as it makes it feel as if Square Enix wants to do it this way, as if they're saying, yeah, wouldn't it be great to remake Final Fantasy VI and release it over 20 years in 6 different parts? Wouldn't it be wonderful? No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying, that's too much. We can't possibly do that. We need to scale this down. So I think that that's a really good thing, because at first, whenever I saw the quote, because whenever I saw the quote, it was kind of taken out of context. Like, it was presented in a way where it seemed like he was, supporting that. And I was thinking to myself, this is crazy. This is crazy. Like, if they could go ahead and they could do a Dragon Quest III remake, why couldn't they make a Final Fantasy VI remake? If they can put Dragon Quest XI, which is huge, it's 3 acts. If they can put Dragon Quest XI on 1 disc, why can't they put Final Fantasy VI on 1 disc as a remake? I was like, this is absolutely crazy, but he is actually agreeing with us. He's saying the same thing. There is no way that we would do a Final Fantasy VI remake in the same way as doing a Final Fantasy VII remake. If we did do a Final Fantasy VI remake, it would be scaled down. It would be done in its own way. It would be done, and it would respect the pacing of the original game. I think that that's a big thing that's going on with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It doesn't really respect the pacing of the original game. Whereas, like, let's just take Costa del Sol, for example. You can get through Costa del Sol in the original game in 10 minutes. You can get through Costa del Sol in 4 hours in the remake. Like, you have to do all those, you have to do so much in there. Like, you have to do so much. So I feel like making these remakes, there's one thing to make a remake. It's another thing to expand on these remakes, but it's a whole other thing to respect the pacing of the original games. And I think that that's what's missing in these Final Fantasy VII remakes. So he's going back to the drawing board, and he's saying, he's not coming flat out and saying, hey, we're never, ever going to do it, but he's also saying, probably not the best idea to do it. And personally, I agree with that. I agree with Yoshi-P. I don't think it is the best idea to do it that way. I really, really don't. He then goes on to say, he says, besides commenting on how future series remakes could be handled, Final Fantasy XVII was brought up for the first time in a somewhat official capacity during the event. So let's see what he has to say about 17. He says, I saw a lot of things in the comments. They were like, okay, I get it. I'm not going to ask for a 6, 8, or 9 remake. But there were comments along the lines of, hey, I want this guy to make Final Fantasy XVII. Yoshi-P said to Final Fantasy VII Remake series director Hamaguchi, who interestingly enough has long been the fans' #1 choice not only for directing a new entry in the series, but also a Final Fantasy remake. So I think that's probably the highest praise you can get. You don't have to answer. So yeah, people were asking Hamaguchi, hey, are you going to be directing Final Fantasy XVII? And he didn't really want to answer, and Yoshi-P kind of interjected and was like, don't say anything. You know, he didn't want to pull off like a Yuji Horii, you know what I mean? Where he just can't keep his mouth shut. Because Yuji Horii is kind of, he is very, known for not keeping his mouth shut whenever it comes to, you know, these sort of things. So I think that that is just really interesting. Hamaguchi has also gone out on the record and said, if I were to remake another Final Fantasy game, I would want to remake Final Fantasy VI. So, you know, he's talked about that. He kind of wants to do it. I think that Square is mulling it over. Square is talking about it. Square is going to be doing something with Final Fantasy VI, but I don't think that it's going to be in the same way as the 7 remake. I think that they're going to scale it down. They're going to do it the same way, maybe as like the Dragon Quest VII remakes. Probably not an HD 2D. I feel like they're going to save HD 2D for the Dragon Quest stuff, for Octopath stuff. They don't want to oversaturate the market with HD 2D, but they could take a different style. In the same way that they took a different style for Dragon Quest VII, and then they could take a style for 6, and they could do that. Maybe like the Asano artwork. You know that really cool artwork that you see in like the Nintendo Power magazines and everything? You know, like maybe take that really cool artwork and do something with that, and then make the 6 remake in that sort of style. But also, you know, just put it with turn-based. Put it with a world map. Make it traditional, you know? I think that that would sell like hotcakes, and I think it would be a really good thing, and this is so exciting to me, that they're really talking about this, that they're bringing it up, and that they're learning from their mistakes, and they're not just saying, well, you know, bigger is better, open world is better, everybody loves splitting up a game into 3 parts, so let's split up 6 into 5 parts. No, they're learning and they're changing, and I'm liking that. So yeah, I think this is very good news in regards to a possible 6 remake as well as 17 news. But now I want to hear from y'all, what do you think about all this? Let me know down in the comments, and as always, have a good day.